With plenty of salt and freshwater venues to set sail on here in the Pacific Northwest, it comes as absolutely no surprise that boating is a major way of life in our region. But with ownership of a boat comes great responsibility and great costs. Costs that include gas, maintenance, moorage, taxes, and other fees that could quickly make somebody's dream of boat ownership a complete nightmare. Many of these people find it just to be way too much and end up ditching their vessels in places like marinas or crowded and not so crowded waterways throughout our region. These ditched vessels end up having serious consequences on our environment. As a commercial tug pulls a barge out of the fog like an emerging ghost ship, Washington state waterways are facing ghosts of their own, better known as derelict vessels, as former owners abandon their boats throughout the state's 2.6 million acres of aquatic lands.
Dreams and aspirations of their owners. A lot of times there's some legitimate reasons why those vessels go abandoned or derelict. An owner may die without any relatives. Other times it just becomes too much for someone to handle because they didn't realize what it would take to deal with a vessel of that size. Other times people are getting these boats inexpensively, thinking that they can strip the boats and then dump them so that they can make a quick buck.
Troy Wood is the Derelict Vessel Removal Program Manager for Washington's Department of Natural Resources. Since his department was founded, Troy has been very busy, as DNR has removed 760 derelict vessels from Washington state waterways. One of the latest vessels to become derelict is the Avisa, a 95-year-old boat built back in the 1920s that once served as a commercial fishing vessel. But like many old commercial boats, the Avisa became privately owned decades ago, and she was recently abandoned by her recent owner in Puget Sound just off of downtown Olympia.
The whole time he was being responsive, so he never entered into our program because it was never considered abandoned or derelict because the owner was responsive. He brought it down to Olympia, where he tied it off to a City of Olympia's buoy, and he left it there.
Abandoned boats are more than just a nuisance and an eyesore. They're also a huge environmental hazard.
So a vessel of this era, of this size, has lead paint on it, which is fat soluble. So any animals that are eating little bits of the paint because it's nice and shiny, gets it into their system, and it gets concentrated as it moves up the food chain. So as it moves into salmon, it gets more and more concentrated. As it gets into orcas, it's even more concentrated. So that's just one example. And then the bottom paints on these vessels are meant to prevent aquatic life from sticking to it. So when it gets sloughed off into the environment, it's going to affect all the aquatic life in that area.
Like every person in the world, each vessel has its own story, and the Avisa is no exception. But her story has become almost as complicated as pulling these boats from local waterways.
The City of Olympia is still going through the custody process. They haven't gained custody of this vessel quite yet. Once they do, they can do whatever they want with the vessel. They can haul it out and store it. They can sell the vessel. They can recycle the vessel. They can do whatever they want with it because they'll have legal custody of the vessel at that time. Our recommendation would be to have it hauled out because it's in danger of sinking.
But no matter how complicated the situation, the Derelict Vessel Removal Program is ready to take on these so-called ghost ships, all while keeping the overall goal of saving our marine ecosystems from further damage.
But it's in the benefit of everybody, anyone who uses the water, including kayakers who don't pay registrations, including people who are out here sailing the boats and stuff. It gets these boats out of the water, out of their way. It prevents hazards, but it also improves the environment.
Derelict vessels are just one of numerous threats threatening our local waterways. On November 9th at 7:30 p.m., be sure to check out a special edition of Northwest Now called Shorelines of Stone, where we take a closer look at threats facing our local waterways. That'll do it for this edition of Northwest Now Digital First. Reporting from the Tacoma Foss Waterway, I'm Chris Anderson. Thanks for watching.